WorkSpan TV, I'm Ryan Johnson. I'm joined in the studio today by two WorldatWork Board members, Trevor Blackman.
Hi there.
And Desiree Klein-Wagner. Welcome to you both.
Hi.
Desiree, you're currently working in Germany. I know you've spent time in the UK. And Trevor, you're currently in Hong Kong.
That's right.
Recently relocated from
the UK.
The UK. So the topic of the session today is really we want to get some European and Asian perspectives on reward and total rewards, and perhaps talk about some of the terminology that's used in both areas. So Trevor, let me start with you. What are some of the main differences now that you've worked both in the UK, you're certainly familiar with the US, and in Asia? Can you just talk about maybe some of the words that are used that are differently used, or some of the perspectives about reward?
Yeah, I think the words total reward, I think, are kind of now pretty universal. I think the thing, though, that perhaps is different is really around how much emphasis people are putting on the various elements of the total reward. In the US, there's a great deal of emphasis in many corporations on work-life balance, and I think that's true in Europe as well. I think that that's something that isn't well established in Asia at the moment, but something that is coming there. The many kind of leading organizations are focusing on, particularly health and wellness. That's a key area. So I think that's one of the key things. People get the model, but quite how far it comes to life in terms of how employees feel about it, or even what employers are putting their resources into probably varies.
And Desiree, in Germany, and I know you also have experience in the UK, talk about how they approach total rewards.
Total rewards is still a fairly new term in Germany, I would say. I think a lot of people still use the term compensation benefits, even within our company. Sometimes we talk about, comp and ben updates. Also, my function's name is Global Reward and Performance. So I think the total reward concept as such is still more about compensation and benefits and, work-life experience, recognition, development, and so on. Just starting to come in, but perhaps not as far advanced in terms of a concept yet as you would find it in the US or also the UK.
Now, in your current place in Germany, I'm just curious about the emphasis. We've got a total rewards model at WorldatWork that has 5 elements: compensation, benefits, work-life, et cetera. How is the distribution of those, or the emphasis, I might say, of those elements in Germany versus, say, the UK, the US, Finland, or any other place that you've worked?
The fixed part of the package is something which is still a bit more important, I think, in, I would say, continental Europe in general. So even at the executive level, that's probably anywhere, and talking top executive level, anywhere between 25 to 40% of total direct compensation. Variable compensation has become increasingly important in the last few years, as also pay for performance, more performance differentiation, more reward differentiation, and so on. But benefits is also still very important as a part of the package, and particularly with some of the demographic challenges that we have in a lot of Western economies. Pensions is becoming increasingly important to also some of our young people, young workforce. Development opportunities and training is something which is very important in continental Europe, certainly in Germany, because people generally look more at long-term careers with one employer. I think slightly this is starting to also change. We're talking about the younger people looking more for interesting assignments as opposed to spending 40 years with one company. But we still have a lot of people that have spent significant amounts of their career with just one employer, and a lot of companies. And if I take our industry in particular, insurance, where there is also good value from a company perspective in getting the best and brightest out of the universities early on, and then embedding them into your company, training them up. Over time, you get often a lot more loyalty from those people. Even during the downtimes, for example, we haven't cut back on our training and development expenses because we really believe that this is important from a longer term perspective in terms of really building the talent pipeline also for the future.
Trevor, what are you seeing in Asia these days in terms of the emphasis of the various total reward elements?
I think cash has always been kind of king, speaking very generally, and that remains so. However, benefits, certainly in certain markets, are really key, particularly healthcare. Like what's perhaps being done in Europe, which is more of a transfer of the healthcare costs to individuals or to companies. In many parts of Asia, that although there is a social underpinning, it is down to the employer to actually sort of top that up or certainly provide more. So, and in certain Asian countries, India as an example, the healthcare will extend beyond the employees to the broader extended family. Employees may contribute to that cost, but it is still, a cost there. And one of the things we certainly are seeing, and I think, we see all over the world, is actually high escalation or higher medical cost inflation as there are advances, as improvements take place. And that's another kind of interesting thing that's going on, together with broader issues of health and wellness. And as diets change in Asia, we are seeing some of the some of the dietary issues and some of the broader health issues associated with changing diet that we've seen in Western Europe or we've seen in the US over a number of years, also appearing in Asia.
I'm just curious if both of you, maybe Trevor, start with you, your perspective on the impact of the last couple of years in the down economy has had on the attract, motivate, retain proposition for employees in Asia or in the UK.
Yeah, I think if you look in, I think if we start first with the UK, I think it's really been very similar to what has been experienced in the US and in parts of continental Europe. I think everyone realises it's a long haul, and obviously in the UK at present, as in other parts, governments are cutting back on spending, and obviously we're going to see changes in the public sector. So I think that's a phenomena that probably is fairly widespread across Europe, similar to the US. I think in Asia the situation is slightly different. Undoubtedly the downturn impacted, there's no question of that whatsoever, but there seems to have been a much quicker rebound, and the labour markets are actually hot, and there's a general sense of of confidence. That's the best way I could say it, and so labour attrition and labour movement is definitely picking up, and just recently, certainly the GDP figures for example Singapore, are right back to where they were.
Desiree, what has been your experience in the last couple of years in this downturn in terms of attract, motivate, retain?
First of all, in terms of the economies, there's probably a little bit of a difference, between the economies that have more manufacturing as opposed to those that are more service economies, knowledge economies. If you look at the UK, for example, they went through a, very big issue, very big downturn, but they also, I think, are usually quite good at adapting quickly and coming out of the crisis more quickly. If you look at Germany, Germany's economy took a little bit of a dip, but Germany is in full swing at the moment. We have, lowest unemployment levels for a number of years, and actually it paid off that during the crisis we couldn't in Germany because of some of the negotiated contracts and way employment is structured in Germany. We couldn't downsize to the extent that maybe companies in the US or UK can sometimes downsize. So sometimes the adjustment takes place more through capacity reductions, people working less hours, either on an agreed basis with the unions or also voluntary basis. But that has actually helped the economy recover more quickly because now we need that extra capacity again.
Really a terrific broad view of the globe here in this conversation. I want to thank my guests, Desiree Klein-Wagner, GRP, and Trevor Blackman.
Thank you.
And for WorkSpan TV, I'm Ryan Johnson.